you couldn't accuse F1 of being narkless, could you really? Every week it seems that different drivers are falling. There's always been an element of that. But at the moment...
Especially drivers in the same team.
Yeah.
Trying to take each other out. Brilliant.
Jon Jackson, one of our Formula One experts here at talkSPORT, joins us. Hello, John.
Good afternoon. I've got a great story about how I accidentally nearly became a mascot at Tooting and Mitcham, if you want me to go into that after we talk F1.
Yeah,
yes.
I think we'll definitely come back to that.
Park that.
I mean, does it feel narkier? As I said, it's not just a rivalry. We have different drivers falling out, shunting each other week after week, don't we?
Yeah, I'm in paddocks quite a lot with different championships, with junior championships and with Formula E and with Formula One. And it happens throughout the whole structure of motorsport because these kids from a very young age they're born winners. They want to win. And in a racing driver's mentality, if you don't win, second isn't an option. They're not bothered. So they're brought up by families and they've got the pressure of sponsorship. So they get this chip on their shoulder where if they don't win, if it's someone else's fault, then they'll probably go for it. And this is kind of what we're seeing. We've seen it for years with Formula One, but it is Max Verstappen and George Russell at the moment. It's just the latest in a long line of disagreements between drivers.
Do you think that Norris apologised because it was his teammate?
Yeah.
Because previous weeks, no one's wanted to apologise for anything. But he was quick to come out and say that was completely my fault.
If people haven't seen it, he went into the back, didn't he, of Oscar Piastri? They're both part of McLaren. And it's a good point, Andy. And you do wonder what the team bosses would have made of that. Not great from their point of view.
Yeah, not ideal. When teammates hit each other, it's the worst thing that you can have in a team. And obviously, McLaren have this thing called papaya rules. Their colour is papaya, the car. It's not orange, it's papaya. And they don't have a number one driver. And I think a lot of criticism has come out that you have to have a number one driver because you need to know who's going to have, the priority. And this is the issue we've found because we've seen them battling it out. They're battling it out in the championship. They're number one and number two, Piastri and Lando Norris. So when Lando Norris tries to go for a gap because he wants to get past his title rival, where there's no gap, and unfortunately loses his front wheels and his front wing and ends his race, then it's fairly obvious that it was his fault when you watch it back. So it's one of those things where it was better for him to just come out and say, it was my fault, because there's very damning evidence that proves it wasn't Oscar Piastri's fault at all. And it's obviously hugely embarrassing for the team. One of the criticisms, the main criticism Lando Norris has, is that he's too nice. He doesn't have a killer instinct. So this isn't really going to help him with that reputation. However, I think in this instance, the fact he did just own it immediately on the team radio, and then we saw him go over to Oscar in the media pen, I think it's probably a good thing because they don't need any extra drama. There's enough drama with the headlines that two teammates crashed into each other when they were going to score good points. So I think in this instance, it was good that Lando Norris apologised. But if it was someone else, I don't think he'd maybe have been as quick to go and apologise to them. But I feel like there was no getting away from it, basically. It was quite clearly his fault.
There was another incident between Russell and Verstappen involving the safety car. And explain that one to us. That was a bit sort of technical. I didn't quite get what had gone on there.
Yeah, so long story short, because of the crash with Lando Norris, the safety car took them round for the last few laps, and the race finished under the safety car. And with the safety car, there's all these different kind of rules. You're obviously not allowed to overtake under the safety car. You have to, maintain a certain speed. The safety car is basically leading you round so you stay out of trouble. And I think that listening to the team radio from Red Bull, Max was just complaining constantly that George Russell was breaking the safety car rules. So there was one that he was too far away from the safety car. You're meant to maintain a certain pace behind the safety car. And then the other one was that he was braking heavily, which then, makes Max potentially make a mistake. And it's kind of just mind games. But listening to their team radio, it just seems it's a bit pathetic. You're a four-time world champion. You don't need to be trying to find small technicalities to try and get one over on this guy that has qualified on pole position for the second year running and has dominated the race so far. I think it's just a bit of frustration from Max Verstappen that he's not in the fastest car this year. Things aren't particularly going his way. And obviously him and George Russell have a lot of beef that goes all the way back to Qatar, when there were big complaints from George Russell that Max Verstappen had impeded him in a practice session and then tried to get him a penalty. And it's just kind of, two kids going to tell the teacher on the other kid and trying to get them a detention. I find it a little bit petty. Let's just enjoy the racing. It was quite a boring race, but we had a bit of drama at the end. Let's talk about that. Let's not talk about people trying to get other people in trouble.
It was a good win for Russell. He feels that he's driving better than ever, and he's got plenty of time to make up the ground if he and the car are up to it. I mean, his contract's up at the end of this season, isn't it? I mean, the expectation is he'll sign a new one, but I mean, good performances like that, I suppose, means he's got options. Do you think he's likely to sign again for Mercedes, though?
Yeah, he joked about that in the press conference afterwards, that he's not got a contract for next year. It's a tricky situation because there's new regulations coming in 2026. I think people are seeing Max Verstappen struggling in the Red Bull. And I say struggling in terms of he's getting the maximum he can out of that car, but they've certainly lost their edge when it comes to being the fastest car. They're probably third or fourth fastest. And I think that Max Verstappen is going to be the first sort of domino to topple here. If he decides to move, then obviously it creates a lot of chaos with the driver market. And the general consensus is that Toto Wolff at Mercedes is keeping an eye out to see whether Max Verstappen fancies trying his luck elsewhere. If he doesn't believe in the car that Red Bull are developing for 2026, could he go somewhere else? The options for Max Verstappen, if he were to go anywhere else, would probably be Mercedes or probably Aston Martin, where Adrian Newey, who's designed his championship-winning car previously, has gone to develop their car for next year. So I think it's not a great position for Jordan. You know, it shows that he has developed into the driver people thought he would become. He's also taken on the more senior role in Mercedes team this year with an 18-year-old rookie teammate who has actually been super impressive himself, Kimi Antonelli. So for George Russell, I know not having a contract for next year is not necessarily a great position to be in, but he's certainly putting in the performances to prove to any team that might be looking at him that he's worth a punt. But I would imagine he'll probably stay at Mercedes and Max Verstappen will probably stay at Red Bull. It's kind of just, you know, behind the scenes negotiations with management and bosses all having conversations while you focus on your job.
Go on then, Tooting and Mitcham, what happened? Tell us.
During the pandemic, Tooting and Mitcham was my local football club. Big Nottingham Forest fan, but obviously I lived quite far away from Nottingham Forest when I lived in Tooting. So I'd go and watch Tooting and Mitcham, a fantastic club, non-league club. They've got a jerk chicken stand in the actual stadium that you can go to. That's legendary. During the pandemic, obviously they struggled a bit because they weren't bringing in money. So I said, you know, I'll chuck 50 quid their way. I feel like I'll support them. So I went online, saw the 50 quid thing. I went, okay, 50 quid, put my name in, hit send. I'd had a few drinks and then woke up the next morning to an email from the club chairman saying, thank you very much for subscribing to our mascot package. We'll get in touch when the season restarts and we'll get you in for a game. So I asked my friends what I should do and they thought I should go out, you know, full kit, you know, holding hands with the captain. But in the end, I donated it to a local kid that wanted to do it. But I nearly got myself stuck being that adult mascot. Yeah.
So was it someone who was the club that invited you to go up there, Andy?
Lee. RMI.
Lee RMI, was it? Yeah, they wanted Andy to be the mascot. I love the idea of him going out holding the captain's hand. I'd pay good money, more than 50 quid to watch
If they played their home games in Chiswick, I might have done it.
Yeah. John,
do you think if they'd let you take a penalty before the game against the keeper would have let you score like they do when kids normally
just go under his body. Go under his body. Cheers, John. Thanks very much.
See you later. Bye-bye.
There we are. Jon Jackson, talkSPORT's F1 correspondent.